Welcome to today's episode of How the Game Was Won. We are in Baku in Azerbaijan for the FIDE World Cup 2015. This specific game played on the 5th of October 2015. We have Sergey Karjakin with the white pieces, Peter Svidler with the black pieces, playing the final. This is game 9 of the final, which is the first of the two 5-minute blitz games. And who would have thought that the entire World Cup would come down to 2 games of blitz? And you can almost call these 2 rather expensive games of blitz, because the winner of this short 2-game blitz match picks up $120,000 and the loser picks up $80,000. So it's a $40,000 difference between the 2 of them. But bearing in mind that these figures of 120 and 80 are before FIDE deducts their special FIDE tax of 20%. But be that as it may, let's have a look at how the first of the 2 blitz games transpired. Sergey is playing with the white pieces, opening e4, we've got e5, knight a3, knight c6, bishop e5, a6, the Spanish, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop e3, castles, c3, d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, rook takes d5, a nice big swap of pieces in the middle of the board. c6, d3, bishop d6, rook e1, bishop f5, queen f3, rook e8, rook takes on e8, queen takes on e8, knight e2, queen takes on e1, check, knight f1, and bishop g6. Now we have a rather interesting position. It's one that's come up a good number of times in Grandmaster play before, and at the moment Karjakin has a number of options. He could play, for instance, h3, or he could play bishop takes on d5. Another option open to him is playing g3 as well. All 3 of these positions have been played time and time again by grandmasters. Instead of doing that, what does he do? He blunders by playing bishop c2. And what does bishop c2 do? Obviously, it allows knight takes c3, and obviously the white has to take with the b pawn, because otherwise, following shortly thereafter, would be the knight would come into e2 with check, and that will be absolutely catastrophic for black, because it will force the king back into the corner, and you've got the king will need to go back into the corner. The queen comes into there with mate. So it will be absolutely catastrophic to do anything else than play b takes on c3. But b takes on c3 doesn't really help, because you've got queen takes on c3, and now all of a sudden you've got this double attack happening, whereby the queen is attacking the rook and the bishop on c2, which means that black's position will be winning, because after something like bishop g5, black can play h6 and still the position is completely winning. But now the interesting point now is, so Karjakin blundered by playing bishop c2. Does it still count as a blunder if your opponent doesn't see it? Which is exactly what happened with Svidler. Svidler had Karjakin blundering in front of him, and had the golden opportunity to pick up the $120,000 check, and instead he plays b4, which allows Karjakin to come back with c4, b3, bishop d1, knight b4, bishop d2, queen e5, bishop c3, queen c5, bishop takes on b4, queen takes on b4, bishop takes on b3. So now as the dust settles, you've got Karjakin is up a clear 2 pawns. And although black still got a little bit of compensation, black does have some sort of compensation because the positioning of white's pieces are incredibly passive at the moment. They're not really doing anything to speak with, and they're not coordinating very well together. Whereas on the black side of the board, you've got the bishop queen working well together. You've got this other bishop that's controlling a nice diagonal that intersects a backward pawn, and you've got the possibility of the rook coming across and occupying a brilliant central file. So black does have a certain amount of compensation, but he needs to guard himself against things getting out of hand with being a full 2 pawns down. Queen b6, rook e1, bishop c5, bishop a4, rook d8, rook d1, queen b2, queen takes on b2. And although Svidler manages to grab one of the pawns back, his position is still rather tenuous. Bishop takes c5, bishop h5. Now Karjakin plays yet another blinder of a blunder by playing rook d1, because obviously you've got bishop f3, rook takes on b2, bishop takes on c6, which is a phenomenally strong position. And black is simply up here a piece for the 2 pawns, and the 2 pawns will be gobbled up incredibly quickly. But instead of working his way out of spotting the blunder, Svidler then blunders right back with queen takes on b1, which allows queen takes h5 and bishop takes on f2. Followed by king takes on f2, queen b6, knight e3, queen takes on c6, knight d5, queen d6, g3, h6, queen e2, rook b8, king g2, king h8, h4, queen a3, king h3, queen c1, knight f4, queen b2, queen e7, queen b7, queen e5, queen d7 with check, king h2, and this time around all black does is Svidler, after having missed Karjakin's blunders time after time after time in this game, he goes and commits a colossal blunder of his own by playing king g8. And what does king g8 do? Well, king g8 just leaves that rook completely hanging out on b8, and Karjakin on his side manages to snap up the open rook, and that must have been an absolutely devastating psychological blow for Peter Svidler, because after having pushed so hard, even though he's missed a bunch of Karjakin's blunders, to absolutely just leave a full rook hanging for absolutely nothing. And with that, Svidler resigned, leaving Karjakin 5-4 up with the second of the 2 blitz games to come, and that will be coming up in the next episode of how the game was won. And this is how this specific game was won, and please feel free to share this video out amongst your chess friends. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, thumbs down if not, that way I know what to be doing in the future. And also, please share any comments, questions, or criticisms that you may have down below. That way you'll be able to help me to make these videos better for you in the future videos. And last but by no means least, when you're watching this within the YouTube window, down below the screen is a big red subscribe button. Click that subscribe button, that way you stay subscribed to my channel for all the new content that comes out on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Stay carved up for the win until I see you next time for another episode of How the Game Was Won, and stay safe out there. See you then.